Right now, more reaction to all of tonight's big breaking news and the comments by Merrick, Garland, the AG, and also the growing effort inside the Biden FBI and DOJ to politicize justice. Constitutional law professor, Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley. Jonathan, you know what? You're a pretty fair arbiter. You really are. You're a Democrat. We don't agree on everything politically, but you kind of call them as you see them. You call balls and strikes. I give you a lot of credit for that. There's not many in the media that do. You tell me if I'm wrong in my thinking. After all that we went through with first the attempt to tie Donald Trump to Russia through the Alpha Bank and the Trump Tower servers connected to the Russian bank, that was all a lie. They tried to push that on the American people. Then Hillary pays for a dossier with money that she funneled through a law firm that hired Fusion GPS, that hired Christopher Steele. Then it's all unverifiable, now debunked information in that dirty dossier, but yet they were warned before they ever applied for the first FISA application, but they used it anyway. They used it 4 times. It says at the top of a FISA application, verified. That was signed, 3 of them were signed by James Comey himself. Then you think of people like Peter Strzok and his words, they had an insurance policy so Donald Trump wouldn't get elected. Am I wrong? Are others wrong in our genuine distrust of the FBI and the DOJ? You know, look at the treatment of Peter Navarro recently, or the treatment of Paul Manafort or Roger Stone, who we're going to talk to. Am I wrong in thinking that if you're a conservative, you're treated one way, and if you're Hillary Clinton, if you're a Biden, you get treated another way?
No, that's precisely why this raid seems to me rather reckless. And that is, the Attorney General has to weigh that context. This country is a tinderbox, and he has an agency in the FBI that has a documented history of false statements, a documented history of misleading courts. And you have to consider that before you approve a raid of this kind. And one of the things that struck me with your initial comments, Sean, with these sources, is how they described this warrant. They told you that there were 2 things described in the warrant. One, a general category of material that should have been turned over to the archives under the Presidential Records Act. And the second one was a general reference to possibly classified information. If that description is accurate, it is very concerning. First of all, the first category I think you have to just set aside. The PRA is not a criminal statute. It's not ordinarily enforced using these types of heavy-handed tactics. What all of us were looking for in this warrant, and maybe we'll see it, is specificity, that they had specific documents in mind with a very high level of classification, documents that the Trump people had refused to turn over. That's the specificity we're looking for. That's the type of thing that would legitimate bringing this to, or escalating this to a higher level. What your sources describe is not that. And so we'll see what happens with this warrant. But when the Attorney General was speaking, all of us had the same reaction in the field, which is we're not that interested in the warrant as opposed to the affidavit. That's where we would find out what the court was told. The warrant itself is sort of the conclusions. It describes the parameters of the search. What we want to know is why the search was ordered, what was told to the court, and did they reveal that there had been cooperation with the first subpoena?
Well, we have the letter from February from the National Archives, and the DOJ, FBI representatives, they went to Mar-a-Lago as late as June, and the president met with them personally and said they're welcome back any time, and they requested a padlock be put on the room where some of these boxes were, and the Trump people complied and were as helpful as can be. So I would like to see that affidavit as well. But what about going to a magistrate that on social media has trashed the morality of Donald Trump, given money to Barack Obama, and also defended, sorry, I know everyone deserves a defense, defended people associated with, of all people, Jeffrey Epstein. Doesn't sound like the guy that I would want to go to for such a warrant like this.
Well, I think what is surprising is that this was handled by a magistrate. A matter of this importance, you would think, would go to an Article III judge, or that the magistrate would bring in the Article III judge to basically confirm that this is the correct course of action. But we're going to have to see that affidavit. Now, we don't know. They may have found classified information. The government has a right to retrieve that information. But it's also important to note that this is a fairly common conflict between former presidents and the archives. Material is taken all the time that the archive says that needs to be brought back. Even furniture has been taken out of the White House that didn't belong to former presidents. And so this is not that uncommon. And if they found those types of documents, the question still remains. Why couldn't you have done that with a less intrusive means? The Attorney General today said there was no other possible or less intrusive means. That's what left a lot of us scratching our heads. I can think of a lot of alternatives, and this warrant hopefully will explain why you didn't think that there was any other possibility. But it's really the affidavit that will tell us whether they had a good faith basis.
Well, a good faith basis, or whether they trumped up charges, no pun intended. Anyway, Jonathan Turley, thank you. We appreciate your time. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.